Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CEO Speaker Series. I'm Caden Vittorini, the CEO and founder of Vit Factor, your host. And today we're joined by Daniel Koffler, who is the president and CEO of New Frontiers, an executive function coach organization that empowers individuals to build the skills necessary for success academically, socially, and professionally. Through personalized coaching, New Frontiers supports clients with diverse abilities and goals, helping them grow into confident, independent self-advocates. Daniel's passion for this work began early, rooted in his experience with his family's special education business. There, he observed a consistent gap. Many young people were entering adulthood without the executive function tools they needed to thrive. In response, he founded New Frontiers to close that gap, offering support to every elementary students to working professionals navigating life's transitions and striving to reach their full potential. Daniel holds a BS in business administration with a concentration in marketing from George Washington University and is a proud member of the Young Presidents Organization. This series is all about asking leaders what they wish they were knew when they were in college. Let's dive right into this, Daniel. So let's think back to yourself as a student and your path from student to CEO. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, your first job, maybe major career decisions, leadership milestones you remember. Just a little bit about your background in that path.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this. So my career path was not what I expected it to be, but it was something that was, I think, relatively consistent with a lot of folks, who come from family business backgrounds. My family is in the school business. We build and operate independent schools, so private schools on a for-profit basis. I was raised that would not be my future. That was the understanding. And then circumstances worked out in such a way that it became my future. So I joined the family business when I got out of college. And it was always important to me to have like my own little niche. I needed independence. It was like a really important thing for me, like subconsciously. So I was certainly helping with the facilities component and with the marketing and like the overall, just promotion of the school. But it's a large building. It's 125,000 square feet of Manhattan real estate. It was this original building the school was in, and it was an old bank. So we had like an old banking hall, 30-foot ceilings, like these, like with mosaic columns, like one of these old school Wall Street kind of, very, they don't build them like that anymore kind of spaces. So we started taking that amongst other spaces. We had a pool, we had a gymnasium, we had classrooms, and we would market them after hours as rental space. So I built this little event space rental business within the business, which gave me both the opportunity to contribute revenue-wise to the overall business, but also to have my own little independent island to operate on. Which was, it was fun and it was challenging. And I think, thinking about some of the milestones in there, I spent a lot of time trying to prove myself to my colleagues who were my staff, but my colleagues as well. I wanted to be one of, but I was also, a leader amongst, colleagues. And it's hard when you're the boss's son to do that. And I looked younger than I was. It was a good lesson in like, don't judge a book by its cover. We're taught that at a very young age. It's human nature, I think, to fall backwards on that. To slide backwards there. But I was reminded repeatedly that you have to earn your place in the world here. It's not about, birthright or anything else except like, can you be productive and do the work?
Mm-hmm. So let's stay in college for a second, because I would love to know about maybe a myth you believed as a college student, a myth about success. And what was that actual reality that you believed?
I was always told, and everything around me told me, that success is defined in financial terms. If you're not financially successful, you're not successful.
Yeah.
That is not true. I can confidently tell you objectively that is not true. It's not unimportant, and it could be your goal, and that's great if it is. But I think that, for me at least, I've learned that maximizing my time and how I use it is the number one important goal. If money plays a role in that, tremendous. But you don't get time back. You can always earn more money. And I think that people I fell for this concept that this outward expression of success is the only way to define it. And the truth of the matter is, you define success how you want to define success, and that can change over time.
Yeah. That's so good. And right, everybody has their own version of success. And that's why I always say, it doesn't make sense to compare yourself to others. And aligning our missions, we have very similar missions. And it's so important to see the impact that we're making. That's what our versions of success are. Daniel, I work with a lot of kids in elementary, middle schools, and high schools. So going in and seeing the impact is the best feeling. And, the money will follow. But, I love that. I think time is so valuable. So great response there. And, if you could go back, you're a successful individual, Daniel, if you could go back to your college self and have a conversation with him, what's one thing you would tell him?
It's hard to go against the mainstream. When everyone's saying go left and you want to go right, it can be very uncomfortable. My experience is it is uncomfortable, but it's often much more beneficial and rewarding in the long term. So go with your gut.
Yeah. And so I kind of took away from that, like take that risk almost when you're young. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and why that's so powerful, especially as a college student?
Because you have time to recover. It may not seem that way. It may seem like, a lot of people think that if you don't kind of follow certain steps, go to college, go to the right college, take the right major, get the right job out of college, stay on the career path. There's nothing wrong with that, but you limit yourself in many ways. And, I was just reading a book recently. It's called Die with Zero, about, how you should, think about your finances in terms of like how you're spending your time in your life. And this guy told a story about how his roommate, when he was just out of college, went to Europe on like a backpacking trip and he couldn't afford it. So he borrowed money from a loan shark at like usurious rates. But the experience he had over 6 months was incredible. And it changed his whole perspective on life. And he'll never get the time back, right? You can't do that in your 30s. Yeah. I mean, you can, but it's better off when you're right out of college to be experimental, to try different things, to see. You don't know what you don't know. So I think you go for it and you can always recover. With if you start early, the longer you wait to kind of take those risks, the smaller the opening in the door is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's kind of jump towards your early career a little bit. And, Daniel, just being a graduate from George Washington University, what was maybe an early challenge or obstacle that you faced and how did you overcome that?
Well, so, I worked in a family business for a number of years. And when I left that business and started the business that I currently run, I was in the driver's seat. And, you learn a lot about yourself and about running a business that they don't teach you in school. And one of the things that I was reminded of is that payroll is sacrosanct. You can't miss payroll. And we were coming up at a situation where we were going to miss payroll. And I was forced to walk myself down to the bank at like 4:00 in the afternoon on Friday, because we had spent the rest of the week trying to figure out other ways to get some money together. I had to go in the bank, max my credit card out to get a cash advance at like 30% interest just to make payroll. And it was like the gap was closed by this much. It was incredibly embarrassing.
Wow.
It was incredibly uncomfortable. It was incredibly unaffordable. It stuck with me forever. I took from that, for what it's worth, that I'll never let myself get in that situation again. You have to, it's important to take risks, but you have to have downside protection, I think, personally and professionally. And I think back to it all the time. Thank goodness I'm not in a situation where that's a likely outcome anymore. But we flew pretty close to the sun, and it's not a good feeling.
Yeah. Wow. That, I couldn't imagine being in that moment. And clearly it's something that you hold true to yourself, thinking back like, wow, like I can't believe I had to go through that. And like you said, it was embarrassing for yourself. So what helped you keep going through that time, through that, maybe that week period where you weren't going to be able to make payroll?
I didn't really have a choice. So it kind of, you kind of, like they say, like you find religion in the foxhole. Like I didn't have another alternative. If I missed payroll, the business is done. That's it. People lose faith in you, like in your singular, most important function. Make sure that the trains run. So I just didn't have an option. We had to figure something out. I had to climb out of this hole with my fingernails. And I think that the adrenaline just kept running. It pushes you far enough to get over the hump. The reflection came after the fact, which I mentioned.
Yeah. So was there like a moment or decision that dramatically changed your career path at all, like that you could remember back to? Was it that moment? Were there a few other ones?
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. So when I was in my family business, we built and operated private schools, independent schools for both neurodiverse communities and neurotypical communities. So we had students graduating from our schools who were not really prepared for the transition to post-secondary. And that's the work that we do, prepare people for the transition to post-secondary. It's amongst our work.
Yeah.
We worked with outside groups who were receiving the students leaving our schools and pointing out, like, look, these kids aren't really ready. There's more work to be done. So I was brought this idea that became New Frontiers. The idea was like, listen, you're a private operator, you have some resources, maybe you want to take this on, like build this out independent of any institution. You can be totally independent and do it how you want to do it. I hadn't thought about it in that context until this idea was brought to my attention. And once it was, I started thinking like, wow, this is incredible. What an opportunity I would have if we can do this properly to help change people's lives on a very kind of minutia base level. And so, yeah, I mean, it completely changed my career trajectory and my life trajectory.
So looking back, would you do anything differently or?
Yeah, honestly, I would change the name. The name of our organization,
Okay.
New Frontiers, was part of what was handed to me, and I was so overwhelmed at the time with like what we're doing and how do we do it that I was like, great, like one less decision to make. Look,
Yeah.
I don't hate the name, don't misunderstand, but I think we could have
Yeah.
done something a little more creative, a little more kind of relevant to me and my personality and what we're trying to accomplish for the
Mhm.
world. That ship has sailed, I think.
Okay. So, I'm sure you do know a lot of college students. So what do you think the biggest challenge that you think students face today?
I think separating the signal from the noise, right? What I mean by that is
Mm.
um, there's a lot of, I don't even want to call it information. There's a lot of just like noise out there. And there's information
Yeah.
built in with that. It can be very difficult to navigate what is objective, what is subjective in the world today. And I think when you're in college, leaving college, like at that time frame is so sensitive and so important to how you establish your foundations as who you are going to become as an adult. If you aren't able to separate out like what is accurate and what is not, and what is for you and what is not for you, you can find yourself spiraling very quickly. And I
Yeah.
see the result of that in adults as well. That at that very important transition point, leaving college, and around that, the kind of the years before and after, is when you have, I think, the most incredible opportunity to really kind of form those foundations. So being able to understand what is objective, what is true, and what is opinion, subjective, and how you want to digest that and how you want to share that, I think is if not the critical skill that students need to kind of get their arms around.
Yeah. So I know you just gave some advice, but any other advice you have for navigating that challenge? Because there is a lot of noise through social media and people around them. So any advice you have through navigating that?
Yeah, and these are all things that I picked up the hard way and or through just like reading and observing and experiencing. One thing is if you see something that provokes an emotional response, best practice is to check a couple different sources because it
Mm.
may be accurate, it may not, but you can't go on one person's view at this day and age. You have to check your sources. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's also important that people feel this obligation to share, to be seen as a thought leader by sharing things that are coming out. You don't have to be the first person sharing it. You can wait 30 minutes, see how this kind of matures a little bit, and then you can have an opinion about it, have a perspective on it. But being the first person to share something can oftentimes lead to sharing information that is not verified, and that will take away your perch as a thought leader. You will lose trust
Yeah.
amongst your peers and people you're sharing with. I think that's really important. So I think those are two things to really focus on.
Yeah, so good, so good. I learned a lot from just that answer right there. So we're going to change direction a little bit, and we're going to do a pick a question game. So I'm going to have you pick a number, Daniel, 1 through 5, and you won't know the question until you choose that number. So what's your number, and I'll let you know what you selected.
Um, 4.
Leadership mistake you made and learned from.
Oh, good. I picked a good one. Thinking that because I'm the final arbiter of a decision, because I'm the leader, means that I don't have to listen to other people. That is not correct. It is actually the complete opposite.
Yeah. And how would you learn from that specifically?
You try to force things through because you want decisiveness or because you want things done a certain way based on your experience, at the risk of forgetting that the people you've brought around you are experts in their arena, and they come with their own experiences and their own perspectives and their own accountability to what the outcome of those decisions are. So to take that away from them, it hurts you as a leader, and it hurts the organization's ability to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now we're going to do a lightning round type of thing where I'm going to ask you 6 questions in 60 seconds. Okay. So I want you to answer in a sentence or less. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Let's do it. Let's get the energy going. So your favorite college class?
I took an architecture class during a sabbatical I went to GW. I was taking classes at the New School in New York. I learned about New York City. I learned about design. Fascinating. I still think about it. That's
awesome. I love that. Your go-to coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Best book or podcast recommendation?
There's so many. I'm going to give you a recent one. Al Pacino's autobiography, Sonny Boy. Unbelievable.
Okay. Best productivity hack?
Wake up early.
Your dream mentor, he or she could be dead or alive?
He's dead, unfortunately. His name is Dick Bass. He is the founder of Snowbird Mountain Resort, and he's also the first person to climb the 7 summits.
And what's something you do every day that helps you stay grounded?
I exercise, and I read at least a few pages of whatever book I'm reading.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to get the last couple questions here. So what are 3 traits, habits, or skills that helped you go from a student to a successful CEO?
Being organized. Finding balance between my work and my life. And exercise is a non-negotiable.
Love those. And can you talk to us a little bit more about why those are important?
If you're disorganized, then you're going to lose track of things. You're going to lose track of time. As I mentioned earlier, time is to me like the singular asset. You have to be respectful of that and plan ahead to make sure that you can get everything done in the course of a day or a week or a year or life. Work-life balance, you hear it all the time. It's a bit cliche, but I personally, I work to live. I don't live to work. My work is very important. My staff is incredibly important to me. My clients are incredibly important to me, but I'm doing this so I have the opportunity to experience other passions of mine, including being with my family and other pursuits. So that balance is important, and knowing that I'm important to my work, but I'm not the only important piece of the equation. Exercise. If you're not healthy, if you don't have health, you have nothing. So you have to build that muscle, I guess, for lack of a better term. You have to build the habit of prioritizing that, I think, because if you find out very quickly what happens if you're so important you can't work out, you get sick for 2 weeks, and like somehow the world stops, and it keeps going, you stop, you realize how unimportant you are in the equation if you don't have your health.
Yep. And those are 3 things that I follow every single day as well. So what's one piece of advice that you have for students who want to lead or become even more of a leader?
You define success for you. So think about what that means. It's your life. You're the one living it. It's not for anybody else's benefit. People will disagree with you no matter what you do. So you do what you think is right for you.
Yep. Got to trust your gut. Do what's best. And if students can only remember 10 seconds of this interview, I know there was so much value. What are those 10 seconds? What should it be?
I would go back to that. I think that it's really important to understand that you define your own success. Everything falls from that, in my view. If you don't have that foundation, that kind of core value perspective, it's going to be very difficult to make any progress going forward.
Well, let's go. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. And thanks to everyone who's watching. If something resonated with you today, share it with a friend or mentor. These conversations are meant to inspire action and change. We'll see you next time on the CEO Speaker Series. Thank you again.